Nowadays, in education sectors, especially in colleges and universities, the students are given Chromebooks for their research work related to the projects they have been assigned. Beginning with firmware version 17.5, Sophos XG introduces the Chromebook User ID app that is available on the Chrome Web Store, which is designed to do transparent SSO for Chromebook users. G Suite, formerly known as Google Apps, is a popular cloud-based platform wherein you can create email accounts for your organization's domain. It also offers you additional professional services such as online storage, shared calendar, Google Hangouts, Google Spreadsheets, and many more. The prerequisites of this feature are 17.5 GA or above firmware version on the XG device, a G Suite admin account to manage and configure the Chromebook User ID application, a Chromebook device, an AD server having the same domain as that of the G Suite admin account, and lastly, the users in that AD server should have their email IDs the same as the G Suite domain. So for this demo video, we have registered the domain sophos-se.com with G Suite, and here we can see the network setup. An XG135 sits in front of an AD server and a Chromebook, which are both connected to its LAN network. Let's have a look at the configuration steps needed on the XG device in order to enable Chromebook SSO. Authentication requests coming from the Chromebook User ID app installed on Chromebook will be verified with the AD server for the purpose of validation by the XG device. So, we will integrate the AD server with the XG device by navigating to Authentication, Servers, and then click on Add to configure an Active Directory authentication server. In the Services tab, the same AD server needs to be selected for the firewall authentication methods as well. The next step would be to enable Chromebook SSO for the LAN zone. This can be configured by navigating to Administration Device Access and make sure that the tick mark is enabled for Chromebook SSO authentication for the LAN zone. At the moment, Chromebook SSO version 1.0 is supported for on-premise only, so the users need to be connected to an internal network. Users connecting from the WAN zone will not benefit from this feature. The communication between the XG Firewall and Chromebook User ID app agent happens via a TLS connection. So, in order to trust and validate this communication, we need to create a self-signed certificate on the XG. Navigate to Certificates, Certificates, and click on Add to generate a self-signed certificate. The certificate ID would be the internal IP of the XG device or an FQDN that resolves to the internal IP of the XG. You need to select your region and fill in the other relevant fields as well. Once the certificate is created, we navigate to Authentication Services and scroll down to the Chromebook SSO option to configure the Chromebook SSO feature. Enable the feature and then enter the domain name of the organization. Enter the port number, and then select the recently created self-signed certificate. Now, in order to allow authentication of the users and manage their web and application traffic, we will create two firewall rules by navigating to Protect Firewall and then clicking on the Add Firewall Rule button. The first firewall rule is to allow only built-in Google FQDN groups so that the Chromebook device can communicate with G Suite for the initial login process. The second firewall rule is to allow users to authenticate on the XG Firewall. We also need to apply the required web filter and application control policy. Both the rules are placed in the LAN to WAN group. Now we have completed the configuration steps on the XG Firewall side. On the AD server, there is no need to install any kind of software. In our example, we have configured a domain named sophos-se.com, and we can see that the user Daniel has an email address at the same domain name. The XG Firewall also checks the email ID parameter when it tries to validate an authentication request with an AD server. Finally, let us have a look at the configuration steps needed on the G Suite admin account. First, you need to sign in to your G Suite admin console. Then, go to Device Management, Chrome Management, and click on App Management. Search for the Sophos Chromebook User ID app. Click on it, and you can see the User Setting and Public Sessions settings. First, we go to the User Settings, and you can see the hosted domain. Select the domain, and then you can see the settings that we have to allow and the option to upload a configuration file. Starting with the 17.5 MR3 firmware and onwards, this JSON config file can be directly downloaded from the XG Web UI by navigating to Authentication, Services, and scrolling down to the Chromebook SSO section. Once the JSON config file is uploaded, we will save the configuration. And then repeat the same steps for the public session settings. As you can see, the Sophos Chromebook User ID app is now configured. Since we have created a self-signed certificate in the XG Firewall, we need its CA certificate file for trust and validation of the certificate. We can also use it for SSL inspection. So now we download the CA certificate from the XG Firewall. We can install the CA certificate from the XG Firewall in our G Suite admin account. And for that, we need to go to Device Management, Networks, and click on Certificates. Select Add Certificate and upload the CA certificate file that was downloaded from the XG Firewall. Enable the tick mark for Use this certificate as an HTTPS certificate authority. So this completes our configuration of the G Suite account. Now let's see how the Chromebook SSO mechanism would look like on a user's Chromebook device. A user will sign in with their domain credentials that are hosted in a G Suite account. Here, we are using Daniel's mail ID and the password. After a few seconds, we can see a notification window that is displayed by the Sophos Chromebook User ID app. It notifies us that the user Daniel has been successfully logged in. Since the Chromebook User ID app is automatically installed during the login process, you can check the configuration by searching for this app by name. Once you click on Settings, you can verify the IP address and other parameters. And also click on the Test Connection button to confirm the connectivity with G Suite and the XG Firewall. On the XG Firewall, we can see a new live user, Daniel, logged in with the Chromebook SSO mechanism. So in this way, you can make use of the Chromebook SSO authentication feature starting from version 17.5 and onwards for managing the Chromebook user's traffic effectively.